Today, Bob Iger made a huge, massive blunder, which once again, another statement that is putting Disney in more hot water with massive legal implications. We're talking civil law, criminal penalties, billions of dollars at stake, and frankly, trillions of dollars for Walt Disney in the future. As always, I'm Andrew Esquire. This is Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. And today we're getting right into it with some brand new news. This is from an earning call. And I want to get into specifically what Bob Iger said and why it has such deep implications for Disney, for their legal case, both the state case and the federal case, as well as potential crimes and civil penalties that can be brought against Disney. So without further ado, let's jump into this. This is the earnings call from today. And Bob Iger is responding to a certain question from the audience on Florida. The question was from JP Morgan, an institutional investor, which said, hey, listen, I'm worried about this risk in Florida because you're fighting with the governor, and this is where a significant part of your earnings comes from. And by the way, this is a fantastic question by JP Morgan, this institutional investor, because they know, hey, it's not good for business when you're fighting with the state you're operating in. That's never going to end well for you. That's not good. It's a lose-lose, by the way, on both sides of the aisle. It's a waste of time and resources for the state and for Disney, but it's all within Disney's power to just drop it and move on. But as we see here, they just can't do that. And Bob Iger keeps digging himself deeper and deeper and deeper and potentially worsening the damage for Disney. So let me play what he said here and why it is so damaging.
Regarding Florida, I got a few things I want to say about that, Phil. First of all, I think the case that we filed last month made our position and the facts very clear.
Okay, so he talks about the case and the position that they filed in the case. To be clear, I've covered that. Their facts are, well, not facts there. They spread a lot of misinformation, irrelevant information, and frankly, stuff that doesn't have to do with Florida law, really the issues at hand. So the federal case, understand, is just one small part of it. And that part of it is going to have to wait till all the state issues are resolved. So just to start out with on that.
And that's really that this is about one thing and one thing only, and that's retaliating against us for taking a position about pending legislation. And we believe that in us taking that position, we are merely exercising our right to free speech.
Which is fine. And Disney was never punished for that. RCID is not Disney. Once again, this is what he keeps doing. Bob Iger, and he's done it once on a previous call, and now he's doing it again. He's saying, okay, they punished us. What did they do to you, Disney? They actually did nothing to Disney directly. Nothing. Okay, they changed the district, but the district isn't Disney. You've had to certify that. So either you're confessing to securities fraud and saying that the entire time you were Disney, so there's tax fraud, securities fraud, a bunch of Florida crimes that have been broken. By the way, there'll be a future video on that. But this is what you're saying here. So if you're saying your RCID, well, yeah, there's going to be issues there. But this is not the worst part, and this is not where he digs himself in deeper. Just listen up here.
Also, this is not about special privileges or a level playing field or Disney in any way using its leverage around the state of Florida. But since there's been a lot said about special districts and the arrangement that we had, I want to set the record straight on that too. There are about 2,000 special districts in Florida.
So let me just start with that. That is correct, but it's also extraordinarily misleading. He's using a mainstream media tactic here. Yeah, there's 2,000 others, but guess what? None of them had the powers of Reedy Creek. Not a single one of them. Most of them are like Celebration. They're community development districts. And here's the other thing. Most of them are controlled by residents, actual real people, not landowners. Landowner-controlled districts are very rare. And when they are, they're usually controlled by either multiple parties or, guess what, state-appointed boards.
And most were established to foster investment and development, where we were one of them. It basically made it easier for us and others, by the way, to do business in Florida. And we built a business that employs, as we've said before, over 75,000 people and attracts tens of millions of people to the state. So while it's easy to say that the Reedy Creek Special District that was established for us over 50 years ago benefited us.
It did. It pretty much primarily and solely benefited Disney. Let's be clear, and that's how it was used over the years.
It's misleading to not also consider how much Disney benefited the state of Florida.
That's not part of the calculus here. Whether or not Disney benefited the state of Florida is really moot. The state of Florida can control the district and can change it as it wants. That's its power. It gave the power. It can take back the power. And also, now that the development has already happened, there's really no need for the district. I've talked about that in my other videos. Walt City was never built, so you really don't need those powers anymore. But let's continue.
And we're not the only company operating a special district. I mentioned 2000. The Daytona Speedway, it has one. So do the Villages, which is a prominent retirement community. And
okay, so let's talk about those two. That right there is the major mess up. He screwed up by mentioning those two districts. Number one, the Daytona district is not just one company. It's a basket of stakeholders, which have a stakeholder not just around the Daytona Speedway, but around the general area. It's not just all controlled by a single entity, a single entity with a single purpose, right? There's multiple businesses that benefit from that, not just the Speedway. Second of all, with the Villages, that is probably the worst thing for him to mention. Now, to be very clear, there are several districts that encompass the Villages. Many of them are controlled by residents, right? And they're controlled through regular elections, like your city or town. But there was one at the center called the Village Center CDD, and it was controlled by one business. And the IRS actually found that they were not a true government and actually required them to refund their bonds, to exchange their tax-free bonds for taxable bonds. This was a massive, massive, massive issue in Central Florida, and it resulted in 2 decades of litigation. So by citing the Villages, he says, oh yeah, this corrupt example that ended up being called out and exposed for their lies in the Villages, yeah, we're that. That's possibly the worst example. That's like saying you want to be like, you want to be like Stalinist Russia, right? Or some sort of, failed state, right? Like, oh, wasn't it great back in, old, I'm trying to figure out, old Babylonia or something like that, right? I mean, where you're thinking of something that's failed a long time ago. No, it's not good. It doesn't work out. Horrible example, horrible comparison. The Villages literally littered with issues legally. So by citing that, you're actually putting yourself in a camp with them that you do not want to be put into. So let's finish up here, but that was big.
There are countless others. So
there are not countless others. There are only a few that are controlled by companies. And frankly, like at Bonnet Creek, for example, they're controlled by multiple companies. So to say there's countless others, that's actually inaccurate as well.
The goal here is leveling the playing. If the goal is leveling the playing field, then a uniform application of the law or government oversight of special districts needs to occur or be applied to all special districts.
He literally, by saying that, does not understand the law. There is a uniform special district law. It exists. This proves that Disney does not know this area of law. They have no experience in it. Their lawyers are not talking to them. And they're giving, frankly, Iger bad advice. They're telling Iger, oh, yeah, this is a good position. Go make up this position. No. Special districts are largely uniform. They either follow Chapter 189 or Chapter 190 of the Florida statutes. They typically turn over to landowners, and they have a lot of the same elements. Reedy Creek was the only one with these superpowers, with these ultra super strong powers that pretty much gave it immunity. The other communities, even Celebration, have very limited power. They just, clean the neighborhood. They maintain some parks. They do stormwater. They're not here to get out of taxes. They're not here to build airports, right? They're very limited in scope and size. So this is a bad comparison for Iger. Clearly, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And clearly, his attorneys and Disney are still blowing smoke in the wrong direction. And this is going to dig them deeper and deeper, potentially towards criminal and civil liability. If you guys like this, make sure you tag the like button, notification bell, and I'm going to stay on top of this. Catch you later. Peace.